Hello, everyone. Welcome. We are back. Sports Talk Chicago with John Zaglul, Joey Christopoulos filling in for John today. We have a fantastic show. Want to say hello to our producer, John Meadows, at the controls today. And we want to also thank our fantastic affiliates who are broadcasting this across the radio airwaves all throughout the state of Illinois, like 98.3 The Life, WKAN, 105.5 The Ticket, ACTV, JED TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9, Talk FM, and our newest one, 101.1 Peoria Sports Radio. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. Comment, question, like, do all that good stuff. Subscribe below. Great show again, like we said. Mike North coming up in just a moment. Want to get a little intro in here today, talk about some of the Bears news and notes that's been going on this week. Not a lot of talk from the quarterback position. The combine is over. We all get a chance to exhale a little bit. We all get a chance to say, wow, Caleb Williams aced the combine, while also right around the corner, I'm sure, as we saw with the Ryan Leaf interview the other day with Dan Patrick, that obviously people critical of Caleb Williams is now going to be the pendulum swinging the other way. So all I have to say to Bears fans on that is keep your head on a swivel. We thought Justin Fields might be traded this week. We are taping this on a Wednesday night. This is airing on a Thursday. Who knows what happens in the next couple of days? I don't see it happening for the next week or so, as it seems that teams are going to be looking at what they can possibly do to inquire about Kirk Cousins' services before they inquire about Justin Fields' services. Kirk Cousins, look, established player, 4,000-yard seasons. Solid player. Got a chance to watch that quarterback series, and I came away a little bit more impressed. I hate to say it with about Kirk Cousins than I did before. So there's going to be interest there for sure. And then obviously we'll see what happens there. What happens with the Baker Mayfield situation. I've said on previous shows before that I do think that one of the pivot teams this offseason, and this might have to do with Justin Fields, is what do the Las Vegas Raiders decide to do at quarterback? If they get involved with a Kirk Cousins, a Baker Mayfield, even a Russell Wilson, or they make calls on Justin Fields, I think whatever they decide to do could be a domino for teams like Minnesota, for teams like Tampa Bay, for teams like the Atlanta Falcons. And again, that can change Justin Fields' market moving forward. Let's get to some other news and notes surrounding the Bears this week that don't involve the quarterback position. Jalen Johnson was, in fact, franchise tagged at just over $19 million. Ryan Poles, in a previous press conference, intimated that they had come strong to the table with annual dollars, with strong length, ability for Jalen Johnson to get back into the market. So maybe they were thinking a 3-year deal instead of a 4-year deal. Now, just because he signs the franchise tag does not mean that the Chicago Bears cannot get a long-term extension done with Jalen Johnson in the offseason. But obviously with the deadline coming up around the corner, this is a great way to cover your bases and to continue those negotiations moving forward. Surprising Bears news, the Chicago Bears made a trade, and it wasn't for Justin Fields. It was for Ryan Bates, the versatile. All of a sudden, we're throwing versatile with Ryan Bates around a lot these last couple of days. Offensive lineman acquired from the Buffalo Bills for a 5th-round pick. If you haven't noticed, there is a cap purge going on right now in Buffalo. Mitch Morse was just released. Their Pro Bowl center in 2022 was released just about an hour ago before this taping. That is an interesting piece of news. And Ryan Bates, a player that Ryan Poles had targeted and put in an offer sheet on 2 off seasons ago that the Bills eventually matched. Well, he went back around, got the deal done, and he got his guy. For some people that are worried that the 5th-round pick is actually going to mean something, look, you have a very valid argument that all draft capital means something, and we have seen in the past everywhere from a Jordan Howard to a Darnell Mooney to even a Braxton Jones. 5th-round picks do actually mean something if you hit on them, but we never really talk about the 5th-round picks that don't hit because they aren't really expected to hit. So I think this is a very fair trade. He's going to be paid $4 million. Again, we get that versatility. He can play both guard positions. Some people think that he can hold down the center position. Even though he hasn't had a ton of game snaps there, he has been listed on several depth charts as a person who can be a backup center. And look, I think this is a good move. If Ryan Poles believes in this guy and all of a sudden he's playing significant snaps in October and November, I think we're going to think very highly of this trade right now. Other than that, right now, it's just a total wait and see and a depth piece, which brings me a little bit to our offensive line. And this is maybe a small signal that they might be a little bit more active on the free agency and in the draft on this offensive line than maybe previously reported or thought of hypothetically heading into this offseason. Let's just go down the list. Now, Ryan Poles, former offensive lineman, has he really crushed this position like he has perhaps maybe the secondary. Has he really turned over that position? Not quite. We're not quite there. Drafted Darnell Wright last year. I think he's a fantastic player, super nasty, has speed, the athleticism that they want on that right tackle position, can get out there on the outside and really plow some guys. I think that was a great pick. Everything else, though, unfortunately, is a bit of a question mark. Let's move on over to the left. Nate Davis, signed a $10 million deal over 3 years last year. Now, look, for those of you that might not be very familiar, and it has come out over time, Nate Davis did have the passing of his mother during training camp last year, which is why he missed most of camp. And then when he came back into the lineup, he was either ineffective, he was injured, he had a nice little stretch, but he did not finish the year very, very strong. So I think he continues to be a question mark, even though the Chicago Bears are paying a big dollar sign to have him on the team next year. So plenty to prove there. Another reason why a guy like Ryan Bates could possibly be helpful. We've talked about it. We talked about it last week with Brendan Shagru. The center position is a huge need for the Chicago Bears, whether it is via free agency, whether it is the draft. My personal preference is probably via free agency if you can, even if it is a guy like an Evan Brown from the Seattle Seahawks, Cushenberry, whatever it is, name your price. We need to bring a guy in there, especially if we bring in a rookie quarterback, to be able to call out the protections, protect this kid, and just give solid play from that area, and maybe draft someone that in a year or two can take over that position for the long haul. Because let's be honest, it has been a bit of a turnstile these last several years, whether it is Cody Whitehair, Lucas Patrick, Sam Mustipher, the list goes on. I think that could be something that the Chicago Bears try and target. And whatever they target this offseason, hopefully it becomes a long-term option for the center position for the Chicago Bears. Moving over to the left guard, Tevin Jenkins. I love this player. When he is out there on the field and healthy, you can tangibly, substantially see our run game be much improved. It has a nastiness to it. There's a reason why we were top 5 in rushing the last 2 seasons. Tevin Jenkins is a part of that. Now, having said that, the guy's moved around positions a couple of times. We all know about his injuries. We don't know about, but we have read about rumors about his particular attitude at times, his toughness. And it's kind of the writing on the wall a little bit that I think he's still in prove-it mode, because I think this would have been a great offseason for Ryan Poles to approach a player in the course of his career like Tevin Jenkins about a possible extension. You're not hearing anything about that right now, which means that I think that he's still in prove-it mode. I think Ryan Bates is brought in to possibly back up Nate Davis, also possibly back up Tevin Jenkins, because we just don't know regarding his health. And I'm curious to see what they do in free agency or the draft to either supplant or create some depth behind those two guys. And then the final one is Braxton Jones, who, look, I think the organization has a lot of currency and equity invested into Braxton Jones because he was that 5th round pick, because he worked his tail off in his first training camp to earn the starting role, because he then played every single snap as a rookie, came back a little bit stronger, had a neck injury. Look, some injuries you can't really avoid any injury. Let's be honest here, guys. And the neck injury was a tough one, and it was serious enough to put him on the shelf long enough, but he came back, finish the season. Can he continue to get stronger? That is a big one for former Bears defensive end Corey Wooten, my co-host for Believe in Bears. He is all about, can you get stronger at that position? And he thinks that Braxton Jones continuously needs to get stronger there. Can he do it? And then obviously at the pick 9, what do they do at wide receiver? Is there going to be no wide receiver available at 9 with possibly a Joe Alt, the guy from Penn State? Is that a possible option there with Braxton Jones? So Ryan Bates is the first of, I think, several moves coming down from this offensive line heading into the offseason for Ryan Poles. And I think it's huge that we need to shore that up as quickly as possible, because the last thing that you need is to go midway through the season, and that's what we're complaining about. They have to get better on the offensive line, the leaky offensive line. Can we trust them? This is a progression period here, and we need to get that unit into the top 10, possibly the top 8 of the NFL as quick as possible. If you want your quarterback to have success, of course, we all know, Bears fans, the offensive line goes hand in hand. My final thoughts before we bring on Mike North is I want to actually talk to the people that listen and watch Sports Talk Chicago, whether it is on YouTube or whether it's on the radio. And I would like to ask for your audience participation this week, because it just kind of had me thinking. I think we're getting lost in the polarization nature of, should it be Caleb? Should it be Justin? Caleb is awesome. Justin sucks. There is no in between. And anyone who doesn't agree with what my opinion is either has some sort of bias or is just an idiot and is just straight wrong. So my thing is I kind of want to create a bit of a mural, a journal, if you will, from the great people that listen and watch Sports Talk Chicago. So here is my question, and I want you to hopefully comment below on the YouTube video. If you're listening on the radio right now in Illinois, don't pull off the side of the road. Get to where you're going, but maybe when you go home, hop on over to Sports Talk Chicago, press like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and then add a comment here for the following question. And we will start it here. When was the moment for the people that do not like Justin Fields, that want us to move on from Justin Fields, that think that he's a trash quarterback, that give him all sorts of weird names that they think that they're being clever, but I'm not really so sure. My question for you is this. When is the moment, what is the moment when you lost faith in Justin Fields? I'm just curious. Look, I'm not going to comment and refute back. Think of this kind of like as a diary entry, a tome, if you will. And I just want to provide and see what the perspective is of when did it happen for you? And this could be at any point, right? If you want, you can say, I didn't believe in him at Ohio State. You can say, I didn't like the trade when it happened. You can say, I knew right away from the Cleveland game, which would be kind of weird, but that's completely your right. When did it happen from you? Was it a play? Was it a moment? Was it a game in full? Was it a stretch of games? Is it a particular fourth quarter? What is it? When is the moment when you decided, Justin Fields, I just don't think he's our franchise quarterback moving forward? And on the flip side, for those of you that still want Justin Fields to be on the team, that you believe in Justin Fields, you think that trading the number one pick for a haul of picks and rolling with Justin Fields gives us the best path for success for the Chicago Bears organization, an opinion that is completely your right. I want you to also comment too as well. When did you buy in? Were you bought in from the moment he was drafted? Was there a particular play? Was it that 4-game stretch? What was it? So that's my audience question out there this week. Just want you to comment and question below whether you're pro or anti Justin Fields. I'm just curious, what was the moment for you that provided that belief, that conviction, that has the opinion that you have hold as strong as it does today? Because there's a lot of strong opinions out there about this topic. I think we're all really passionate Bears fans. We all want to see the Chicago Bears win. And of course, the quarterback position is so important. So my question is, when did you lose faith in Justin Fields? Was it recently? Was it from the beginning? Somewhere in the middle? Comment and question below. I'm dying to hear. And I'm really interested because I don't think everyone's answer is going to be exactly the same. And that goes also for when was the moment when you thought that Justin Fields either deserves another shot or is the guy, is him with a 1 instead of the I? What is it? What was that moment for you? And I just want to comment and question below, and I want to see what everyone comes up with. And I think we're going to be really intrigued that I don't think the answer is always going to be the same. As it stands right now, Justin Fields is still on the Chicago Bears. No trade has come down at this point. It might be a little bit longer, especially with these free agent quarterbacks testing the market, with Kirk Cousins saying that he wants to test the market before he entertains offers from the Minnesota Vikings. So I don't know, just food for thought. I think it would be a fun little exercise when we all get to read the different moments when we knew it was either him or not him, time to move on or time to stick with them. I'm just kind of curious to see what your thoughts are. Coming up, he is a man who's been around decades. He is an iconic voice in Chicago sports. He's the one, he is the only, Mike North. Let's get to him right after this. Hello, everyone. Welcome back into Sports Talk Chicago with John Zaghloul. Joey Christopoulos filling in for John today. You can follow me at Joey Sports Guy, but joining us right now in Sports Talk Chicago, returning guest, friend to the show. He has 32 incredible years under his belt. Give us 32 more, good sir. One of the most impactful voices in Chicago sports history. The story of his rise to the top is actually now available. It was called Raging Mouth and available now wherever you get your podcasts. It is Mr. the one and only Mike North. Hello, Mike.
What's going on, my friend? Everything's going good. What's going on with you?
Nothing much. Little rain here in California. Offensive linemen are getting cut left and right. The Chicago Bears are bringing guys on, and we have this little thing called the NFL Draft right around the corner. So excited to have you here on the show.
No, it's great to be on with you. I was on with you a few months ago. I had a great time, man.
Let's do it again, shall we? So my first question for you, I want to start a little bit on the general side. And look, you've seen it all. You've been around this thing. You've been around this block 1 or 2, 4,000 times, whatever you want to call it. My question for you is, when we talk about the Chicago Bears, when we talk about just this offseason, we'll get to the quarterback in a second, but just this offseason, Mike, how critical is this offseason for the Chicago Bears from what you've seen from your wealth of knowledge over the years?
Well, it's critical for Poles and Eberflus. It's not critical for Chicago Bear fans. It doesn't seem to be too much of a critical thing with Warren, the president. I just see that he hired a COO for the stadium the other day, chief operating officer. He was brought here for the stadium. He's been here a year. What's he been doing? Number one. Number two, every quarterback that's drafted is going to be great. I've found that out since 1963. Every quarterback since I've been a kid is going to be great that's drafted. All these guys are generational, best in a decade, and very rarely do they pan out the way they're supposed to be. So, the Bears are in a quandary. The fans overrated, along with 95. I think I'm the only guy that wanted to keep Mitch Trubisky when everybody else wanted to change. And I had my buddy Carmen DeFalco tell me last week, and it was finally endearing to hear. He said, I never said I wanted Fields. I just didn't like Mitch. I go, well, how's that going? I said, they ruined Mitch because then he went to Pittsburgh and Buffalo. He's just been a traveling vagabond. And he could have still been with the Bears, and they might have made the playoffs one of the last 3 years. Fields, same things happen. I think they've treated him harshly the last couple of months, dangling him out there, saying in one breath he could be our quarterback, but in the other breath, they're trying to peddle him. So, sending mixed messages. I just think that they've never done it completely right. They've never treated their quarterbacks completely right. And then I had my buddy from the bar room, Aldo Gandia, great podcast we have there, say the same thing. He's a Fields guy. He says, now I know what you were talking about with the way they treated Trubisky, because I thought Fields was going to be all that, and it's the same way. All of a sudden, he's nobody. And everybody invested in him, and now they're figuring out, he didn't have this, he didn't have that. He had plenty. DJ Moore had a record-breaking year. So they got a decision to make. I don't want Caleb Williams. I'd rather have a veteran. I said this a month ago on my AM 1000 show. I'd rather have Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins. I said it right there about a month ago, and all of a sudden they're out there. And the Bears, I don't know. I think they thought they were going to get a lot of demand for the first pick. And the problem is not everybody believes Caleb Williams is that first-round pick. Or maybe some teams believe Jaden Daniels is that pick. Other teams may believe it's Bo Nix. Who knows? Or maybe some guy we've never even heard of. So it's not a Manning type thing. If Manning was available, you could get. Why aren't 10 teams breaking the door down to get to the Bears' first pick? Why isn't New England, who picks third, going after him? Why isn't the Raiders going after him? If this guy that I heard Colin Cowherd say is the best college quarterback he ever heard, then where's the 10, 12 teams that all want to deal to get this guy that's been compared to Mahomes? Because it's not true. It's all ridiculous hype, and these guys yearly embarrass themselves for the most part.
That your point is exactly why I wanted to bring you on, Mike, because I think we've got kind of this binary conversation of there's Justin people, there's Caleb people, when really it's just some sort of weird concentric circle where we just want the Chicago Bears to be as successful as possible. And
I'm not sure of that anymore. I'm not sure of that anymore.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that people still holding out for Fields are just afraid to admit they're wrong, like they've been many times in their life, but they put themselves out there. When I said 95% of the Bear media did not want Mitch Trubisky and was all on board with Justin Fields, I meant it. When I said 90%, maybe 80% of the Bears fan base wanted Mitch Trubisky out with the 29-29 record, 64 touchdowns, 37 interceptions, and I got to hear he's a bust, and then I got to hear people carry water for Justin Fields, Carmen DeFalco said it to me the other day. Finally. I said, they haven't replaced Mitch. And he says, you're right. You're right. No matter how you felt about him, wasn't replaced. But let's see what happens. But it's the same old song and dance with me.
I mean, we haven't replaced Jay Cutler if you want to play that game, because he was the last guy who's actually been around for multiple seasons. Well,
that was our mistake.
A version of stability. Well, right, the Phil Emery's, right, but yeah.
We had 8 years of him at $118 million. But here's what people don't know, because the media won't tell it to you. He was 2-11 against Green Bay.
Yeah,
that's for a man. You put that kind of money out. 2-11 against the Green Bay Packers, and his record was 50-50 for the Bears. And they kept him 8 years. You do that for a guy that's won you a Super Bowl. Russell Wilson spent 10, 11 years with Seattle. Deservedly so. Brought him a Super Bowl. Cutler brought nothing but nothing. He brought sourpuss face, no leadership, went 50-50. There was fights in the locker room at halftime, Brandon Marshall in his face. So they finally got it right, but then Nagy didn't like that. He wanted a Mahomes type, and there's only one Mahomes. So they screwed everything up. They got rid of David Montgomery. They got rid of Will Smith. I mean, it's not like they haven't gotten rid of some good players. It's not just Mitch. They got rid of the best linebacker in football, or one of the top three. They got rid of, and I told everybody last year, Montgomery, they'll never replace him. Oh, they're going to do running back by committee. There's no load back that the Bears will ever have, or no four guys. Last year, he carried the ball 9. This is a lot of good stuff, isn't it? You got to admit, this is some good stuff. I got to be honest with you.
I'm lining up the follow-up questions.
You don't even hear it. You better get moving here. Anyway, listen, 933 carries Montgomery had in 4 years. That's a monster. You're carrying 200 times a year, 220 times a year. They don't have a back like that, and he was the best blocker they had, and they just let him walk. So it's the same old nonsense that I've been hearing for 40, 50 years.
Right. So I want to ask you about Russell Wilson specifically in a question,
okay,
but in a second. But you're bringing up something so interesting. Where is it possible? Let's just I don't know. Let's kind of get philosophical about it from a sports Bears fan perspective.
Sure.
Is it possible that we've gotten so obsessed with thinking that one day the clouds will part and a quarterback shall come down and will solve all of our problems, when really there's more to it, right? It's the McCaskies. It's an offensive line. When was the last time we brought in a top tier left tackle? And as you mentioned, just when we get going, we won't pay David Montgomery. And it's this lack of maybe a stability throughout the organization, but we fixate that if we just find the quarterback, all that other stuff will go away.
No, it will never going to happen like that, but I agree with you wholeheartedly. Good analogy. And I got to be honest. I mean, you see what they're doing there. They have no idea. They have no idea how to build a football team. Now, will Ryan Poles be able to do that? Somebody said the other day his only bad trade was Claypool. I said, yeah, but you let David Montgomery walk. You traded Roe Smith. And I know you got other players for him. See, my point is the Bears, and the reason we need a veteran, I think the defense is ready. You just signed your kicker to a 4-year deal. He's as good as anybody in the game. Santos the Magnificent. I mean, so what are you missing? You do have good running backs. You still have free agency. You got to improve your line. You did with the signing of the guy from Buffalo. He's going to be a Cody Whitehair type. He's going to be a guy that can play different positions. Maybe you can move him at center, move him at guard. Seems to be doing all right. The Bears tried to sign him a few years back. They didn't get him, and they went after him again. So good for them. So I think that if you got a veteran quarterback like Russell Wilson, and it's only going to cost, and this is right up the Bears' alley, a couple mil, come on.
Not even.
I mean, and I don't buy Sean Payton's excuse. Everybody says, well, what Russell Wilson's done? What's Sean Payton done? As soon as Drew Brees retired, Sean Payton's had nothing but issues.
And the thing with Sean Payton was that turned into a non-football issue with his insurance money. What I mean? So they were just trying to save $35 million on.
Well, what he told him is what they basically said, and I've been there before, when they try to cut your salary. And certain people won't go for that. You signed me to this. I threw 26 touchdowns, had 8 interceptions last year. Yeah. I had a 95 rating. I had 3,300 yards. Yet you guys are leaking out that I have an office upstairs, or that I basically had some divisions in the locker room. They tried to drive his value down when in fact he was there, and people go, well, Pete Carroll got rid of him. Okay. Where's Pete Carroll? He's gone. He's upstairs. When he took an advisor's role. That wasn't the plan. If Pete Carroll wins a Super Bowl 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he's no coaching.
Yeah.
But they got rid of Sherman. They got rid of a lot of guys on that team. But Pete, $39 million, pay me. And now Denver's in real trouble. Let's see how good Sean Payton is now that Denver's got some quarterback. I mean, really, Russell Wilson to me is about a $10, $15, $20 million quarterback right now. With the year that he had last year, he was a top 10 player, top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, well, 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, definitely rebounded after the Nathaniel Hackett mess that was the year previous.
But he had a good year that year. If you look, check out his stats. But I get where you're coming from. People forget, though, Jeff. People forget. They're trying to blame Russell Wilson. Denver gave up 70 points in one game early last year. Denver's defense didn't find themselves for six games.
And gave 28 up to the Bears in the first half.
They lost to the Bears. And they had enough points. They gave it up late. And then I'm hearing it's Russell Wilson. No, your defense gave up 70 points in the game, and then the next week you lost to the Bears when you should have beat them. Well, they gave up 28 points to the Bears.
Yeah, right. I mean, again, that feeds a little bit more into that quarterback savior, kind of complex that I think a lot of organizations suffer for, and ones that the Chicago Bears are currently suffering for. So I just want to go further on this. So for you, when you say Russell Wilson, what does this look like to you, Mike? Are you thinking a 1-year bridge deal? Would you be okay with a 2-year deal? And would you be okay with the Bears still drafting a quarterback, whether it is Caleb, whatever your preference is, and have him sit and steward under Russell Wilson?
Yes. Finally, do what Green Bay's been doing for so many years. I mean, look at Jordan Love. They laughed at him. People actually thought they laughed at Fields and said Justin Fields would be heads and tails above him eventually. That's not the case because he watched. And just like Rodgers watched Favre, I mean, they have an excellence in quarterbacks that goes back to 2-time Super Bowl MVP Bart Starr. They know how to get it done. The Bears don't. So what I would do, and I don't care if he was the number 1 pick, I hate people that say you can't draft a wide receiver 1. Okay. So in other words, if people really knew Jerry Rice was going to be Jerry Rice, you wouldn't have drafted a person to draft. In other words, and all these people that think Mahomes was an automatic, nobody wanted Mahomes. No. Kansas City was smart to draft him 10th. But if somebody showed you this is what this kid's going to look like in 3 years, okay, you draft him one. Walter Payton fell to the Bears from Jackson State. If everybody knew what he was going to do, I don't care who your running back is, you take Walter Payton.
Michael Jordan went 3. You know what I mean? I get Akeem. I get it. But the whole Sam Bowie, Clyde Drexler, we already got one. I mean, so the whole thing right there is forever.
It's all, and Purdy went to the Super Bowl, and they didn't. Mel Kiper, I don't think ever mentioned his name in 2 weeks of all the months of draft coverage that they did. I like Marvin Harrison. You trade the 1 pick. You trade the number 1 pick. You get you move up somehow with the 9 pick, or you try to trade up. I'd like to get Marvin Harrison. If you don't want to trade the number 1 pick, I'd still take Marvin Harrison. You don't get Caleb Williams. Let Washington make that mistake. Then I'd start working on the lines with the rest of the draft, and then I'd draft Sam Hartman from Notre Dame in the 5th round if he's still available. Knows how to play the position, unlike Justin Fields, they're still calling a project after 3 years. He was traded up for. And he still doesn't know how to make progressions. He still holds on to the ball. The last Packer-Bear game, the last game of the season, Love had the ball 2.8 seconds, Fields 3.5. He held on to the ball. Can't make the progressions. So then you get Sam Hartman, and then if you got Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins for the Bears, and you think we can't make the playoffs, you're crazy. I'd rather have Cousins, but they won't spend the money. I think if Atlanta gets Cousins, they're going to make it to the playoffs. I think if the Bears get Russell Wilson, we'd have a great shot. Because now DJ Moore is going to be open, and the ball's actually, when he turns around, going to be there. And he still had a great year with 96 catches. But I guarantee you, there were 15 other times he was open that Fields couldn't get him the ball for whatever reason.
Well, and look, the thing that I think that we're aligning on, we're not aligning. Like I had hope for Justin Fields, right? And look, as a Bears fan, I had hope for Mitch Trubisky, and until otherwise, I trend a little.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. Now, what happened with Mitch? Did you want him out? Because I'm curious. Nobody's really answered this. What did he do wrong? He got into the playoffs 2 out of 4 years. He had a high quarterback rating. He led the Bears. He threw 6 touchdowns in one game. So I want to know, because you're pretty smart, what did he do wrong? He won, put up pretty decent stats, and then everybody sided with Nagy. You know, I love Bear fans who can't stand Nagy, but every time he made a move, they sided with him. And then we went through the Dalton fiasco. We went through the Foles fiasco, to be benched when, you know, you had a shot to win, and then they brought in Foles in against Atlanta, and we saw that bust. I just want to ask you, because you're a smart guy. You really are. I could tell. How many failures at quarterback do you have to have before you finally realize that it was a mistake to get rid of Mitch Trubisky, number one? And number two, how many times are you going to go to the trough with the Bears and believe in every pick they make? Because apparently every Bear quarterback pick, whether it's Dalton, Foles, Glennon, or whatever, every one of you, and I have to say it, meatball fans, threw Mitch aside, and who knows what's going to happen, because, you know, Mitch right now is looking for a team. Just like Baker Mayfield was last year, and they made the playoffs when everybody thought he was done.
Yeah.
See, that's my point. Goff, Mayfield, they were other people's trash. One man's trash is another man's treasure. And Mitch is going to go somewhere where he's not going to be pulled twice. I mean, I love that he got pulled for Pittsburgh after only playing 2 games. Now look at the mess they're in. Now look at Tomlin. You know what the big deal in Pittsburgh is? Oh, he finishes 500. That ain't the point. You don't make it to the playoffs. They've never developed anybody anyway. Who they developed in Pittsburgh? Ben was great when he got there. And Tomlin had him for 18 years? And now look what he's doing. He's an idiot. He's got 3 quarterbacks, and now they were going to deal for Fields. And the combine talk was, it's all cold on Fields now. So I want to know, what did Mitch do?
So here's the thing with Mitch, and I'll be the first to tell you that I have a sweet tooth for blind optimism. I do, right? And I wrap my head around Mitch just like everybody else. Right. That first year, with Fox here, whatever, I thought Mitch did the best that he possibly could. I thought that game versus Detroit at home, I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, but he's a young guy. He was only 27.
No, I agree. To be very, very, very fair. So when he comes in with Nagy and he starts putting up great numbers, the first small red flag that I had was I just didn't think he played very well in the Rams game. But guess who didn't play well in that Rams game? Jared Goff. So, I mean, that game was a mess from the
my point is, I know what you're saying. I'm not asking. You're legitimately giving me reasons, but what you're saying is that happens to every quarterback.
Oh, I agree.
And then we get impatient, and then we got to go to the next one.
So here's my thing is that I wasn't out on Mitch. I was out on the Nagy-Mitch relationship, and they were never going to move off of Nagy because Nagy showed up to training camp that next year and said, well, you know what? I think we're going to do offense 2.0 instead of building on what Mitch's strengths already were.
He screwed him right there.
Let's do it again, and let's repeat until we're so awesome at these 7 or 8 things that maybe we'll add 9 or 10.
Yeah, so then they go out and cut their own throats, and Nagy ruins his career as a head coach. That's what he did.
Correct, and then they bring in competition with Andy and Nick Foles, and lo and behold, who do we have to call? We tap on Mitch. We tap on Mitch for that last month to get us into that playoff game.
Isn't that true? He wins 4 out of 5 in the next year, and then he won't meet with them, Nagy, and then shits on him.
And then sliding doors, you know what I mean? Nagy actually draws up this perfect trick play. Mitch throws this perfect pass, and it goes right through the wide receiver's hands. And that same.
And here, Mitch paid the price.
Game totally.
That's a good. At least you're being straight up. Mitch got screwed by that and by the double doink. Perky makes that kick. We're going to the Super Bowl, and then all this nonsense we're not here for, and they blame Mitch.
Mitch is amazing on that drive too. We don't kick that field goal without Mitch playing really well.
You know what's the best one?
What's that?
Guy asked me, he goes, he threw 6 touchdowns. He goes, that was against Tampa Bay. I go, then why doesn't everybody else do it? And he's like, see, that's the kind of negativity that Mitch had to put up with. And name me a quarterback on the Bears that throws 6 or scores 6 touchdowns in a game. And then we call, and then they leak out to the national guys that he's a bust. And I hear these supposedly intelligent people telling me he's a bust. And then they're going, oh, Fields is going to show the Bears when he goes to the next place. It's been 3 years. He started 35 games, and he's 10-28 total. That's it.
Yeah, I know. But to be also very fair on that, though, Mike, is that, the stink of Nagy emanated onto Justin. Justin was 2-8 with Nagy in that first season too, and there was some.
But Poles stayed with them. They decided that they could do it, and I understand they fell for the ruse. See, his running ability is so great. See, here's why I think he's better than Caleb Williams. Because Caleb Williams, I saw him against Notre Dame in a couple other games. I'm with Merrill Hodge. I'm a big fan of Merrill Hodges. He's gone from that network because he used to ruin the narratives that everybody else liked. Oh, this guy's great. Merrill Hodge would go, you crazy? Merrill Hodge said, Caleb Williams is not going to be all that. I'm with Merrill Hodge. Now, Fields got out of situations last year, at least 8 of them, including in the end zone. Right? That play in the end zone.
Yes.
Williams is on his back. So he's got that going for him. Plus, you pick up maybe another receiver. DJ Moore had a great year, folks. And I mean, now you're going to break that chemistry up. It reminds me so much of when Allen Robinson and Mitch hooked up for 200 receptions in 2 years. I got to hear nonsense. And then Allen Robinson, coached by the Bears, once they got rid of Mitch, says, I'm really excited to play with Justin Fields, right? And Allen Robinson that year has 36 catches. His career is almost over now. Mm-hmm. They ruined his career. They ruined Fields' career. They ruined Trubisky's career. Nagy ruined his own career. And this could have all been avoided. That's my point. The Bears always do the wrong thing. And if anybody thinks the Bears are going to pick the first pick and do the right thing and pick the right pick, you're out of your mind. You haven't been watching.
So Mike, really quick, if you could pinpoint, what is your biggest concern with Caleb Williams at this time, who is, the soup du jour of conversation in Chicago right now?
Well, he's the soup du jour because from the conversation from all the people that wanted Fields and wanted Trubisky out. So they have no credibility, none of them. If you wanted Trubisky out for this and for Dalton and for Foles, how foolish do you feel now? I mean, seriously, he could have been. I know this. If Mitch would have played the last 3 years, we would have been more competitive than we are now. We have not been competitive. So I don't take any advice from Bear media because they've been wrong about Foles and about Glennon and about, I can go through. Glennon. And I said if Fields didn't make it, all the saps, that's what they are, should paint their faces blue and be forced to walk around for a day with the number 1 saying, me and this guy and that guy and this girl, Justin, yay! So stupid. Caleb Williams.
Chad Hutchinson used to be a pitcher, Mike.
Yeah.
Remember that?
You know what I like for Fields if I was going to keep him with the Bears? Like Taysom Hill. Have him run out of the Wildcat. Have him come in at running back. Have him come in at quarterback. Use him as maybe split him out if he to receiver as a decoy. Pull some double reverses. I mean, if you kept him, you don't have to start him at quarterback because, quite frankly, whoever you bring in deserves to at least compete against them. And the Bears never brought in no competition for Fields because he would have lost.
Well, and really quick, I really want to hear Caleb Williams' point. But when we're talking about Russell Wilson and maybe why at the beginning of the offseason, I thought maybe keeping Justin Fields might be a good idea is because if you could trade that number 1 pick, not only are you thinking about maybe a Marvin Harrison this year, but if you get multiple number 1s in the future years, I think people don't realize that those aren't just draft picks. Take your pick of any player in the NFL.
Absolutely.
It costs a number 1 pick. You got it.
We got it.
You know what I mean? So that would be the other.
Yeah, I'm with you in a way. If you have Russell Wilson, let's say, you can have him watch. I prefer they draft. Let's say they want to draft Penix. Let's say they want to draft. Let's say they move down a little bit from the 1 pick. Let's say they swap with New England, and they move down. They take Bo Nix. Let's say they take I don't want to hear that that certain quarterbacks are cinches to make it and certain aren't. I mean, I'm hearing people say the kid McCarthy. Oh, come on, McCarthy. You know, are you out of your mind? The Michigan quarterback lineage is as strong as any quarterback lineage in college football. I mean, Tom Brady, Jim Harbaugh, Henson, who was, if you talk, Chad Hutchinson. I mean, you look at what other, they've had some damn good quarterbacks at that school. This kid's another one. So they know how to play the position. How great they're going to be, I don't know. Harbaugh was 35-30, but look what Brady did, you know, and that. Caleb Williams throws off his back foot when he's pressured. Caleb Williams played it in the Pac-12, which was notoriously the worst defensive conference in the nation. When he played a defense that focused on just trying to stop him, he played Notre Dame. He had a disastrous night. And that was a night where guys like me said, well, let's watch this guy. And that night, he crapped the bed. Then later on, I watched him crap the bed in another game. But he throws for a lot of yards because they play no D. And it's no doubt he transferred. 3 guys that transferred from other conferences to go to the Pac-12 were the best quarterbacks in college football. Are you starting to get the correlation here? Are you starting to get it? That they didn't play any defense, but when he played a defense, and he had played good against Notre Dame the year before, he played this time, did not impress me. But here's the coup de grace. I just found out what that meant the other day. Pretty good.
Let's use it.
Yeah. It was a coup de grace. His replacement
in the bowl game.
Replaced him in the bowl game. Mm-hmm. And broke the single game touchdown record with Mr. Diva standing there watching him. I'm saying, wait a minute. How's he a once-in-a-generation quarterback when some USC guy sat out? You're playing your backup, and he breaks your record? That's when I said, he's not generational. And then I said to myself, I'm going to ask you, rattle off, because the Bears are famous for it. You know, remember how the Bears did? The Bears and Ohio State tried to develop a quarterback together, which is impossible. Ohio State can't develop one except Stroud. You know, people said, see, Mike, Ohio State developed a quarterback. You know how long I used the argument that they couldn't develop a quarterback? 57 years it went without them developing a quarterback. They finally did. So now let's go to USC and the Bears, because the Bears and Ohio State here. Why don't you just rattle off the successful USC professional quarterbacks? I'll be over here. You got 2 seconds.
Well, we all know Matt Leinart is great on TV. We also know, God, who is? I'll
give you one.
Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer, number 1 pick.
And Joe Burrow made everybody forget about him in 2 seasons. So my point is, you had Carson Palmer. That's the one. Pat Hayden, Matt Leinart. I can go out Matt Barkley.
Yep.
Sean Salisbury. These guys were all predicted to go to that next level. And some of them were decent pro quarterbacks. And some of them were better than Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams now has that coming. Now are the Bears actually going to go 2 quarterbacks in a row? One from Ohio State and one from USC? And we expect the Bears and that combination. I'm nervous. That's all I'll tell you. I hope they don't take them, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I have.
You know what you even want to do with them? I mean, you want to keep Fields. See, Bear fans aren't even resolute. Should we keep Fields? Should we trade for a veteran? Should we go for Caleb Williams? I would just ask you this. Apparently, the plan didn't work if these are all the options we're going for.
Well, look, so there's a couple things, right? And some of this is going to sound sacrilege to the people listening, so just deal with it.
Don't worry about it.
To push back on Caleb a little bit, I do think he has a quick release.
Okay.
I do think he actually he does some things with his shoulders and his head that manipulates defenders in the pocket that I think is an intangible that most quarterbacks don't do that I wish they did a little bit more.
I get you. I like the fake.
So yeah. That little shoulder.
I'm understanding.
Right
See, I'm not a hater. I'm just trying to understand the phenomenon that is him. When I didn't see it.
But the thing that I'm saying is that I see a lot of the same concerns that I have about Justin Fields and Caleb Williams, but he's 3 inches shorter and he's 20 pounds lighter and he's not as fast as the other guy. So could Chicago Bears fans even wrap their head around the idea of, and we've seen this before, we've seen a lot of tangible examples of guys that sit in their first year that go on and learn a lot about the NFL and then come in ready to
in the NFL,
those feet settled in the pocket. But we can't do that in Chicago, right? We couldn't do that to the number 1 pick. That'd be insane, right?
Yeah, we got to play him right away and ruin him. That's what we got to do. We can't sit a guy for 3 years. Well, I come back to go back so far where Zeke Bratkowski, I mean, there was no free agency. So guys like Zeke Bratkowski backed up Bart Starr for 8 years. They started very sparingly. Guys like Gary Quazzo backing up Johnny Unitas. If there would have been free agency, these guys won titles with their teams. They would have been able to make more money and gone to other teams, but they didn't have that. So now you have these decent quarterbacks back then who couldn't even start because the better player, I mean, when you're playing behind Johnny Unitas and Bart Starr, I mean, it's going to be tough to even break the lineup unless there's an injury. Now, my point about Russell Wilson is simple. I'll just go back to one great player, Joe Montana. Kansas City was not Kansas City for a long, long time. And they decided, they decided to take Steve Young and move Joe Montana out. Joe Montana says, I'll go to Kansas City. A lot like Russell Wilson. Nice deal, everything else. They made the playoffs. It was a bridge, didn't work out after he left. But, that's the thing. The Bears need to get into the playoffs. Enough of this. Let's wait 3 more years because this guy is going to be as good as that guy, and he's going to be. We've never. Sid Luckman was good, but this guy. Are you out of your minds? We need to make the playoffs. So let's get into playoffs. And if you picked up Wilson or Cousins tomorrow, nobody's going to tell me if you keep Fields or pick up Caleb Williams that they have a better chance of getting in the playoffs than Cousins or Russell Wilson with this team. Nobody. It's called experience. I mean, Cousins has 7 4,000-yard seasons. The Bears have never had one, ever.
Well, I'll ask you this. You're the king of the odds.
I love being called the king of the odds, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to get a jacket made.
If they announce today that Justin Fields is going to be the Chicago Bears quarterback next year, what would you say? Probably 7.5 over under. If it's Russell Wilson signed tomorrow, what would you put it at? Would it get up to 9.5? Because I think if Kirk Cousins signed, I think the lowest you might.
I think it might go to 9, get bet up to 9.5. I think if you sign Cousins, you got 9.5.
Yeah.
I think if you sign Fields, you got 7. Now, here's my question to you, Mr. Caleb Williams fan. That's what I'm. What do you do? I'm like Brandon, you a Caleb Williams fan. I've been Brandon. I got a Mitch Trubisky brand. I'm like a cow.
7 weeks.
Yeah, they tied me down. How dare you like Mitch Trubisky? Anyway, what happens if they get Caleb Williams stardom and he wins less games than they did with Fields? Let's say they win 6 games, 5 games. Hell breaks loose.
Sky falls. Right? I've already went out and said that look, I want everyone to know that if you want to move on from Justin Fields, that is fine. If you want to take Caleb Williams, that is fine. But prepare to take a step back.
Prepare to die. Because I mean, seriously, you can't let's do this combination. The worst nightmare of all. Because I'm hearing, this is the good news. This is going to love. I'm hearing the Jets are looking to sign Mitch as the backup for Rodgers with the Jets.
Oh, wow.
So, man, I'll buy my Jets hat because Rodgers may not even start the first 2-3 weeks. That would be awesome. And then Justin Fields, let's say he signs with somebody else and runs wild and they make the playoffs while the Bears win 5 games. Bad scenario for the Bears.
And look, I think we get caught up in this all the time. I don't care who it is, unless you want to say maybe Peyton Manning. When you're a rookie quarterback, you got to get these guys at least 20 to 25 starts to figure it out. I brought this up already as a comp. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, through his first 26 starts, he had 12 touchdowns for 18 interceptions. He had an under 500 record. I don't think the world of Trevor Lawrence, but I want to kind of give these kids a little bit of a runway. Yeah, please.
Compare Trevor Lawrence's because his first 50 games, Mitch was 29-21. Compare that with a lot of quarterbacks that are playing in their first 50 games on other teams. It doesn't even matter. That's why I think the Bears made some bad personnel decisions. And the stadium thing's in flux here too. I mean, I'm going to be dead by the time they build the new stadium. I mean, I got news for you. I'm going to be dead. Warren's going, oh yeah, I was brought here for a stadium. That's right. Well, you were hired last year. Well, they brought in a guy from Minnesota who was a bad Big Ten commissioner, screwed up the COVID thing. He helped them get a stadium in Minnesota, but you can't bring an outsider into Chicago and to Illinois and deal with the politicians we have. You will have nothing left. Your clothes will be, you can't. So that's why he had to go out and hire somebody else now. So basically, he's acting like he was hired as a football man, and he's not. He's an administrator. So hopefully he'll keep his big fat nose out of everybody's business, but Poe's do his job. I'm not out on Poe's yet. I think he's got a possibility. This is huge for him, though. He screws this up, they're in trouble. He's in trouble, man. He screws this thing up.
Yeah, it's a real turning point. I think Ryan Poles in the draft has been my favorite part of his whole thing. Free agency's been mixed, trades been mixed. You're never gonna bat 100% or 1,000.
I agree.
I do like what he's done in the draft a little bit. How about
this? Eberflus is 18-1 to win Coach of the Year with Fields as the quarterback. He's like 6th. Now, that's a good buy because they know something we don't know.
Yeah,
he's 18. I think he's like 18-1 if you check the odds. And I'm going, what's going on here? It's their defense. They need a field general, not a field sergeant, not a field captain, not a field private. To get a field general with that defense, if the Bears, I know Bear fans, the most popular quarterback's always the second stringer. But if the Bears picked up Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins tomorrow, we'd all be jacked up. Don't try to BS us. We'd be jacked up more than we are now. And if they pick up Caleb Williams, I'm going to tell you right now, I think whether it's Fields or – and did anybody see what Goff and Mayfield have done as guys that have had us? How about Stafford? He went to another team. Why can't you – and won a Super Bowl. Why can't you do that with Wilson or Cousins? Because maybe they got a plan. But when you have 2 quarterbacks available like that, you got to take a hard look because that division's winnable. Our division's winnable. It is.
Yeah, especially after we kicked the crap out of the Lions for about 55 of the 60 minutes or whatever that we played them for 2 games over the course of the year. Also, shout out to the hashtag Team Bajan people that have been in our comments the last couple of weeks.
Oh, I love Bajan.
But let's let him. Can we just let the kid mature? You know what I mean? Like, let's funny? Let him stay in the system for a couple of years.
He knows how to play the position better than Fields. He just doesn't have the talent that Fields has.
Yeah, and the arm. Yeah, no,
But you know what happened? He was playing Division III. Well, what's funny is you say let him grow, but he won as many games as Fields had at that time. So I'm saying that's what the Bears are saying. Well, how can this kid do this? But here's the thing that happened to him. He wasn't used to the speed of the game. He was thrown behind certain guys because his receivers at Division II or Division III were slower. He's playing with like DJ Moore or Cole Kmet, who's a tight end who can run. So we got some good skill players. We got Kmet. We got I like our running backs, but we still need to load back. We got a couple good tight ends, a couple good linemen. I like Jenkins. That was a good pickup. So we'll see what happens. But they're third place right now. Where do you got them? I got them in third.
In the division right now? I would also put them in third right now. I think Minnesota is still the runner-up.
You got Detroit. You got Green Bay. If Cousins signs with Minnesota, we're third or fourth.
Yeah, look, I think
unless Detroit, we sign Russell.
Detroit, we've seen this a lot in different sports all the time. I think they have a lot of talent in some really high-end areas, but as a team, for whatever reason, they just can't seem to really bring it together. The defense, they talk about the defense now, I feel like for the last 8 years in Detroit now, and they keep bringing in new people. It continuously doesn't work, so there's just something continuously missing there. And I'll be honest with you, I just kind of gauge it in who scares me. And the Detroit Lions, they don't scare me. Green Bay, every single time I'm like, oh boy, here goes Aaron Jones. Like, you know what I mean?
If you're a general manager in our division and you hear the Bears pick up Caleb Williams, you go, okay, we got to get ready. In 3-4 years, this guy's going to be something maybe or whatever. If they find out, if you're in the Detroit room or you're to Green Bay and they find out you picked up Kirk Cousins or Russell Wilson, they go, now the tenure changes. Now you got another team now you got another team that can challenge you. Because I think they feel, you just brought up the defense of Detroit. I feel the same way about the defenses with Green Bay. And the defense with Minnesota, they're not there. I think we have the best defense. That's why you can't let a defense that's young continue to lose football games.
In 2 years, guess what? Montez Sweat is going to be up. The linebackers' primes are going to be out. The secondary, Brisker's going to be up for money. No, you have to time it up in the NFL, and you
gotta win.
You have a small finite window. You can't just say, hey, give me this time to build it up. You have to build it up very, very, very quickly. And Mike, we got a couple more minutes left. So I want to pitch over to one more topic here.
I like when you pitch over to other topics.
Hey, speaking of organizations that are asking for 3 or 4 or 5 more years here to let us figure it out, I just want to get your take on this White Sox situation right now. Born and raised, I've loved the White Sox my entire life. The 90s were great. The 2000s were up and down. We got a World Series out of it, but honestly, the last 10 years have been a total mess. Now with Chris Getz under the helm, there is no Kenny Williams wearing sunglasses, feeding us bullshit about how they're trying to compete right now at this time. I mean, they're literally going the Oakland A's route. I just want to get your take on the state of the White Sox on the field, off the field, the stadium right now. Where do you see this going in the next 5 years? Because I'm kind of depressed, and honestly, I'm even more scared. I think that Nashville thing can be real if we let it go down the road that it's going down right now.
Well, I would say this: if they had a commissioner, I would have told Reinsdorf you shouldn't be saying stuff like that. Number one, you can't have rioters on Roosevelt and Clark like you did this past weekend, looting stores and everything else because it was nice out, and say you want $1 billion to build a stadium there or in that area. You just can't do it. The city's not as safe as it was. You have a mayor that could give 2 craps. People are staying away. And if you think that building a stadium, if you don't have law and order and what have you, and you think you're crazy, number one, you should probably, if I was Reinsdorf, he tried to do it once before, go to Addison, I would probably go to Naperville or out past that area there, Naperville area, off of 90, build a stadium that's easy to get to. There's a lot of open land. It's time to get out of the city because they can't compete with the Cubs. You got a guy asking for $1 billion when you have the owner for the Cubs sinking nothing but money into the whole neighborhood. He's not asking for a lot of money, for any money. He's added on to his stadium. The Sox never added on to their stadium. They built it wrong from the beginning. Their upper front office has been a disaster. It's been the same for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it hasn't gotten any better. I really believe that. I'm a White Sox fan. But when the word on the street, and I think it's dangerous when you can't read the room. I remember when the White Sox were going to move years ago, back 40 years ago, and they threatened to move to Tampa, and Sox fans were panicked. Most Sox fans now that I've talked to, go ahead. What did you do?
That's scary.
Yeah, what did you, well, here's what they do. I would do if I was commissioner, but who knows what this guy's going to do. You move to Nashville, you can't take the White Sox name. You can't take the White Sox name.
Because we'll just find another.
We'll find another.
That's the thing is we'll find someone that actually gives a shit.
Yeah,
and then we take the White Sox back like the Cleveland Browns did.
Right.
And then you get a whole new.
That's what you do. I mean, there's been movement of teams before. It's going to happen again. And San Francisco moved. Brooklyn moved. Chicago's too good a city. But he says that you can't compete without a new stadium. I would ask everybody out there, name me. It's not because of where the stadium is that he can't compete. He never went after anybody big. Did he go after Ohtani? No. Did he go after Bryce Harper? No. Did he go after Garrett Cole? No. I'll name you every big free agent. Who did he go after? Yasmani Grandal. He never goes after anybody that's going to put seats in the ballpark.
Yeah.
He never does.
Well, he will in July. Kenny will do it in July and August when he'll get Manny Ramirez or John Kruk or Ken Griffey Jr.
No, what you got to do, and here's what I would tell him. You will loan you $1 billion. But if you don't win, the interest goes up a year. And if you win, then the interest comes down on the loan. You got to win. You can't do this attendance thing where they get free rent if they draw under 2.6, because now they're happy to do under 2.6 because it's an attendance clause. That should be ripped up. You should maybe put an attendance clause that you'll get free rent if you go over 3 million. See, it's all for his partners. Everybody knows it. And to actually use the playbook, I'm going to move like anybody gives a rat's ass right now about the White Sox when you got a team that's got 63 wins as the over-under total? And if we heard, and once again, the Fields people are the rebuild people. They're the same people. I think I'm looking at one right now. Fields and wait. Fields, yes. I like Fields, Mike. Hold on.
I can see it.
Yeah, Fields and the rebuild. I know that you had that. Both of them, you're excited. Eloy. Whoa! He's so good. He plays 40 games a year and pulls up lane like a mule. And then
you should have seen me. You should have seen me in 2020 being like, the window is wide open, Mike.
We're gonna win 10 in a row. We're gonna win it all. And then but then see when they get rid of guys like Chris Sale from Moncada, I knew that. I go, you cannot trade Chris Sale.
You can't replace. They're still trying to replace Chris Sale.
Back.
Yes. You can't get rid of
a real
Chris
guy
Sale. You will
back.
always look for another Chris Sale. That's why you don't trade those people.
The Chris Sale deal, the McCann deal pissed me off. I go, he made 2 All-Star teams. He's a 240 hitter, but he caught the team. They all did good. Dylan Cease did good. They all pitched well with them. They bring in this guy who catches with boxing gloves on, who can't hit, and they give him $77 million. Come on. But the White Sox, I mean, you know what I've heard for the last 4 years? This is what I've heard. 2 themes. Fields is going to Canton, and the White Sox are going to win the World Series.
Look at those takes now. Oh, man.
Oh, God. And then they tried a Chicago fan. I don't know who they're listening to or who they're reading. They miss me badly on a daily basis. My God. If I didn't have such a charmed life, my God, I would be going crazy. I would have never been able to make it through the Caleb Williams Field stuff. I'm doing this once with you, and I'm losing my mind.
Oh, man, it's hours and hours, and we're in early March right now. Thank God we can at least go to the quiet part of the room and look at the Bulls, because they haven't done anything for the last 4 years. But
well, no, I love how Kobe White is starting to look like, Stephon Marbury, and then all of a sudden Levine comes back and all hell goes, the whole team goes to hell. Then he gets hurt. Kobe White was making strides, and they go, guess who's coming back? The guy that sucks, that can't win a championship and was paid max money. Who? Levine. Remember? We all thought he was good.
Gifted scorer.
The Bulls were 55-1 to win the title. People are writing this down. 55-1 to win the title before Levine signed the max deal. You know what they were after he signed the max deal?
I'm going to say, okay, I was going to say it didn't move.
They did better. They signed a guy to a max deal. And they stay at 55-1. Why would you do that? Even the bookies knew it was stupid. Even Vegas knew it was dumb. Crazy.
Mr. Mike North, man, it's such a pleasure. I
could do this all day. I did this on the corner for free when I was 14. Yeah.
Hey, man,
this has been fun.
This all day for 32 years.
Where's Zaglu? Where is he? Where's he been?
I know. Hey, look, he's coming back. I'm holding down the fort for him right now.
Yeah, you're doing good.
Oh, thank you.
You know what? You're doing great.
I appreciate it. And honestly, I'll be real with you. It was an honor. I mean, the guy works really hard. John works so hard.
Oh, John's the best.
And he's got some talent to him. And the fact that he asked me to step in for a couple weeks.
That's awesome.
Much to the chagrin of some of the audience, I'm having a great time. And I love.
Hey, let me ask you something.
And I'm wishing him health. Yes.
Before I let you go, or before you let me go, you brought back, I got the chills. You got a window unit air conditioner, kid. I got the chills. In the 80s,
see the cock. You should see the cock around this baby.
Let me tell you, in the 80s, we had a hot apartment. I'd stand right in front of it, and it would go. It would barely blow out in the air. Is that thing worth a damn? Hopefully.
I mean, look, it drips like crazy on the outside, but I'm on the inside. So you know what? We're winning.
Yep. Oh man, you're the best.
Mike North, thank you so much for joining
You're welcome.
Chicago. For anyone out there right now that wants to learn, if you don't know enough about Mike North right now, go to find Raging Mouth wherever you can find your podcast. A fantastic piece of work. Congratulations.
Don't believe everything you hear about me. Only 90% is true. I mean, wait a minute.
90%, or is it 10? We don't really know.
Whatever.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. I love your perspectives, man. Thank you for joining Sports Talk Chicago.
Brother. Thanks, bud.
That's going to do it for us here on Sports Talk Chicago with John Zaglul, Joey Christopoulos filling in for John. I want to thank our producer, John Meadows. I want to thank all of you for tuning in and listening. And I want to thank our wonderful affiliates who continue to support us every single week as Sports Talk Chicago continues to spread throughout the state of Illinois and hopefully beyond in the future. I want to thank 98.3 The Life, WKAN, W55, The Ticket, ACTV, JED TV, WJOB, Cities 92.9 Talk FM, and of course, our newest sponsor, 1011 Peoria Sports Radio. Thank you to all those wonderful affiliates. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, watching on YouTube, liking, commenting, subscribing. If you're asking yourself, how do we follow John and how do we continue to follow Sports Talk Chicago in the future? You can go on wherever you want with socials. Just type in Sports Talk Chicago or Sports Talk Shy if you want to go onto Twitter. You can also follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Great show today. I want to thank Mr. Mike North giving us that third rail in the Caleb and Justin conversation. Look, I love talking about this stuff, okay? This isn't cut and dry. I'm never going to get over it. I love the Chicago Bears. I'll talk about them every single day passionately. So thank you so much to Mike North for coming on. I'm Joey Christopoulos. Be well, be safe. Please be good to each other. We will see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Sports Talk Chicago.